All right, let's dive into something that's a total game changer for anyone doing test automation in Java. We're talking about TestNG.
So, does this look familiar? You've got this growing test suite, and the bigger it gets, the more it feels like a tangled web. Runs take forever, finding a specific test is a nightmare, and everything feels rigid and brittle. If you're nodding along, you are definitely not alone.
Well, that's exactly why TestNG was created. That NG isn't just for show, it stands for next generation. It was built from the ground up to tackle those very problems of older frameworks. It's this incredibly powerful and flexible tool that can handle pretty much any kind of testing you throw at it, from tiny unit tests to massive end-to-end integration flows.
Now, when you pair TestNG with something like Selenium, that's when the magic really happens. You know, Selenium is fantastic at telling a browser what to do, but on its own, it doesn't give you much structure. TestNG provides that missing piece. We're talking about way better organization, running tests in parallel right out of the box to save tons of time, and some really smart ways to handle your test data and reporting.
Okay, so to really get a handle on TestNG, you have to learn its language, and that language is all about annotations. You can think of them as little commands or labels you put in your code that tell TestNG exactly what to do and, just as importantly, when to do it.
And here's the key. TestNG follows a really strict order of operations. It's a hierarchy. It all starts at the very top with the suite, which is basically the entire test run. Then it drills down into a test that's a logical group of classes you define in a config file. From there, it goes into each specific class, and finally, it gets to the individual test methods inside that class. Understanding this top-down flow is everything, because it's what gives you such fine-grained control.
So, at the very top of that pyramid, you have before suite and after suite. These guys run only once at the very beginning and once at the very end of everything. This is your spot for global setup. Think, firing up a database connection or setting up a special logging system for the entire run. You set it and forget it.
Now, one level down, we get @before class and @after class. These are super handy. They run once per test file. This makes them the absolute perfect spot to initialize your Selenium WebDriver right before the tests in a class start, and then to cleanly kill the browser session after all of them are done. Super clean, super efficient.
And now we get even more specific. We've got @before method and @after method. And these do exactly what they say. They run before and after every single test. This is your go-to for repetitive tasks. Need to navigate back to the home page before each test? Or clear out cookies? This ensures every single test starts from a fresh, predictable state. No more tests failing because of leftover data from the previous one.
And that brings us to the star of the show, the @test annotation itself. This is it. This is the heart of your script. This little tag is what tells TestNG, hey, the code in this method, this is the actual test. This is where we click the buttons, fill the forms, and most importantly, check if the application is actually doing what it's supposed to do.
All right, so now that we have the basic building blocks down, let's get into the really cool stuff. These are the features that are going to supercharge your tests.
This one is a huge game changer. You've got two kinds of assertions. A hard assert is probably what you're used to. The moment something fails, boom, the test stops right there. But then there's the soft assert. It sees a failure, it makes a note of it, and then it keeps going. Why is this so amazing? Well, imagine you're checking a user's profile page. With a hard assert, if the name is wrong, you'll never know the address and phone number are also wrong. With a soft assert, you get a full report of everything that's broken in one go.
Let's talk about speed. This right here is one of the biggest reasons people love TestNG, parallel execution. Running your tests one after another can take, well, forever. But TestNG lets you run them at the same time, on different threads. You can literally cut your execution time in half, or even more. We're talking about a test suite that used to take an hour, now finishing in 20 minutes. For a team that needs fast feedback, that is absolutely massive.
And what about testing with lots of different data? Check out the @data_provider annotation. It's TestNG's beautiful solution for this. You just create a separate method, like this one, that's job is to just supply data. Then you link your single @test method to it. TestNG takes over and runs that same test again and again, once for each set of data you provided.
Write the logic once, run it 100 times with different inputs. So smart.
So we've got all these amazing tools, annotations, assertions, data providers. But what holds it all together? What directs the show? That would be this one file, testng.xml. Seriously, think of this file as the conductor of your automation orchestra. It tells every single piece of your framework what to play and how to play it.
Let's break down what's inside this conductor's playbook. The suite tag is the big boss. It wraps everything. Inside that, you create logical test groups. And within those, you tell it which classes you actually want to run. But then you have these other powerful tags like groups and listeners that let you get super specific about what runs and what happens during the run.
Hey, remember that awesome parallel execution that saves so much time? Well, this is how you turn it on. It's literally one line in your XML file. You just add parallel equals methods and set a thread count. And just like that, you've told TestNG to run your tests across 3 threads simultaneously. It's that easy to make your whole suite faster.
So what if you have 500 tests, but you just want to run the 10 most critical ones for a quick sanity check? That's where groups come in. You just tag those critical tests with a smoke group in your code. Then, in your XML file, you tell it to only run the smoke group. This is so powerful for getting fast feedback without waiting for a full regression run.
Another beautiful thing about the XML file is that it lets you separate your test configuration from your test code. You can define things like which browser to use or which website URL to point to right here in the XML. This means you can run the exact same tests on Chrome, then Firefox, or point them from your staging environment to your production environment, all without changing a single line of your Java code. It's incredibly flexible.
Okay, we've seen the tools, we know what they do. Now, let's talk about craftsmanship. How do you put all this together to build a testing framework that's robust, easy to maintain, and built to last?
These are really the keys to the kingdom for a solid framework. First, basic organization. Logical packages and clear names mean anyone can jump in and understand what's going on. Second, you absolutely should use the page object model. This design pattern keeps your page selectors separate from your test logic, so when a developer changes a button ID, you only have to fix it in one place, not in 50 different tests. Also, set up listeners to do things like automatically take a screenshot whenever a test fails. And finally, use a build tool like Maven to handle all your project's dependencies. This guarantees that your build is consistent and repeatable for everyone on the team.
So, if we boil it all down, a truly great TestNG framework stands on these 5 pillars. You master the annotation hierarchy to control your execution flow. You use the right assertion for the job, both hard and soft. You use data providers to make your tests scalable. You run things in parallel to get your time back. And you use that powerful testng.xml file to orchestrate the whole thing. If you can nail these 5 concepts, you are well on your way.
At the end of the day, learning to use TestNG effectively isn't just about writing better, cleaner tests. It's about buying back your most precious resource, time. So the real question is, once your framework is fast, organized, and powerful, what are you and your team going to build with all that time you've just saved?